Hello and welcome. Now I want to share with you some of the practical things that I do to help myself have a more successful no buy / low buy, really execute and stick to the rules that I've set myself. But most importantly, I think these things really help with FOMO, the fear of missing out, which is a big theme that will kick up some point, maybe at the very beginning, somewhere in the middle, or just a general thread that goes through your whole no buy, low buy year, and sort of how to kind of address and work with those things. So this is a practically targeted video. I will also hopefully do a follow-up where I talk about more mindsets and thoughts to have and just kind of like frameworks to think about that will get you in the right space. But first, practicality. There's three kind of overarching themes that I want to talk to. The first is ignorance is bliss, the next is bask in your own abundance, and the third is create/do. And these are kind of a bit random. I will explain what they mean and unpack them a bit more. But basically, the whole point of all the things I do is to kind of put a bit of buffer between myself and the vulnerabilities I have, especially because I struggle with self-esteem and I'm still trying to build up my own confidence and like have a better relationship to myself where it's really loving and compassionate and super fun and great and all happy and good times. But we're not there yet. So I feel like I have to protect myself because there are a lot of companies and advertising marketing teams that are actively trying to prey on my insecurities to basically get me to go out and purchase their products, and they use pretty like basic and like instinctual tactics, but they're very effective, like time limits, limited edition, all those kind of things that make you want to buy more stuff and to not just buy it, but buy it like instantly. So it's lots of spontaneous impulse purchasing. But anyway, let's talk about the titles and what I actually do. So the first is ignorance is bliss, and I personally love this one, and to apply it especially to all things social media, but also in my practical life as well. So the way I do that is when it comes to my inbox, my email inbox, I do not allow any companies or brands to send me any promotional emails whatsoever. That is a practical place to send and receive assignments, schoolwork stuff, maybe some flight confirmation, a bit of online banking, maybe tracking if I do purchase something, like tracking the purchase order and all those kind of things, but no promotion. And when I do purchase something online, I always make sure to check out as a guest. I never create an account with like brands because they offer you these kind of really pathetic crumbs of incentive, which is like, you know, build up your rewards points, then get this, you know, $5 voucher or whatever, which is like usually you have to spend a lot of money just to get $5 off, so it's not really worth it. Or they say like, you know, be on our email list and we'll give you $10 off at your birthday, which is the same thing. To spend the $10, you ultimately have to spend more. But honestly, none of that's worth a year's worth of promotional nonsense in my inbox. Like, I either will get distracted and end up on the person's website looking at all the stuff, or I have to spend the time organizing and deleting that from my inbox and sending it to my trash anyway. So no amount of little pathetic crumbs of incentive nonsense that doesn't actually equal good value is worth a year's worth of spam, basically. And I unblock and unsubscribe from all of it. That applies the same with social media. When it comes to Instagram, I do not follow any brands because it's just an advertisement profile. I have no interest in looking at all those things. I don't follow any influencer type people that spend most of the time just promoting stuff to you anyway. Not interested. I don't like following people who promote like an unrealistic lifestyle or just like a very kind of perfected, look how great my life is, without certain levels of reality or trying to help improve themselves and other people's lives in some way. I feel like if you're not bringing real value and you're just sharing beautiful things, I don't know, for me it's just not enough. Same when it comes to YouTube. I try not to subscribe to channels that are just constantly promoting stuff or things that, yeah, basically just trigger me to want and desire things, you know, that I actually don't really need. You know, when it comes to, you know, new releases, when it comes to all that kind of online social media stuff, if you don't know what's happening, you can't be afraid of missing out on it because you don't really even know what's going on. And, you know, it's hard to have a desire for something that you don't know exists, if that makes sense. So I feel like it can be hard. I think we live in a society where there's a huge influence on like keeping up to date, being on trend, really being informed on what's going on. And I think that's useful, but like at what cost? If my mental space is full with lots of what's going on in terms of current issues, I think it's useful to be informed, but to what degree? I think for some people it just triggers their anxiety way too much, and I totally respect if you don't want to watch the news or you don't want to know what's going on, because it is hard. And I think the same applies that if it's content that's targeted at stuff, advertising stuff, or just content that's kind of like frivolous and a bit useful. Like, sure, it's nice to be entertained every now and again, but like, how much content do we want to consume that actually doesn't really have much substance or value? And I feel like ignorance is bliss is a great blanket to put on all that stuff, put up some boundaries and just be like, I actually don't need to be that informed or know what's happening with every single brand and the new releases. And you know, there are also some awesome influencers that you can find online that talk about new releases, but they kind of anti-haul the things, or they show what's happening and what's the forefront of makeup or whatever, but they bring a different perspective, like, hey, we've seen this before. Because that's the thing, like, originality is kind of dead. There's nothing that's so amazing that even if something is to completely sell out and you're going to miss the new release, you will be able to find that product somewhere on the internet. Like, I'm sure someone else is doing it similar, maybe even the company has the same thing but like slightly different packaging or a few different ingredients. So I think it's just really important to just kind of check out, especially if you're doing a challenge of this kind and you feel like you just want a bit of a break from that fear of missing something or the constant triggering of desires, which then make you spiral and start thinking of all these justifications of why you need to buy the thing. So that is one area, and I also apply that to physical stores. I try and avoid shopping centers and stores because it's the same principle. When I see something in a store, I didn't know it was there before, I didn't know that sale was happening, I didn't ever think about it. It took up no time or energy in my mind. And then when I know it exists, then I start thinking about it, I start desiring it, I start justifying why I might need the thing, and then I'll probably go back and purchase it. So especially at the beginning of your no buy low buy, just don't window shop, don't bother going into the stores. I just don't think it's really worth it. Instead, find a more valuable way to fill your time, which we'll get in further into the video. So next area is basking in your own abundance. I think we all have plenty of beautiful things in our lives that deserve to be used, that want to be used, want to be cared for, and want to bring value to our lives. And if they don't do any of those things, then they probably want to be given to a different home. You know, all the items we have in our life are natural resources. They're resources that have been taken from the earth in some way, and we should use them and use them, be grateful for them, and get value out of them. And I think, you know, there's lots of different ways to do that. One of my favorite ways that I've discovered more recently is through project panning. I think this is an excellent thing, especially if you're someone who's really into makeup and beauty products, is to really focus on using up what you already have. And when you realize how long it takes to use through and work through items, you suddenly have an appreciation for the fact that if you were to buy a new eyeshadow palette, for example, you will never truly be able to use that up completely and get the true value that that item costs in terms of the price of it. And you just start to work with and appreciate and get creative with what you already have, and you start to really understand and appreciate the abundance that's already in your life. You don't need more, you've got more than plenty. I think that's a really useful thing to do, and you can apply that to so many areas. It's not just like beauty products, but you can do capsule wardrobes, or you can do different challenges. If you have like a blazer in your wardrobe that you like but you don't seem to wear very much, say, okay, this week I'm going to create 3 different looks with this blazer. Or if you have one pair of jeans, how many different ways can you style it? Like, how many times can you wear this one top in a month? Like, set yourself little challenges or little fun ways to like play with your own creativity or your own style, and really learning to find what your own style is. What do you really like? What makes you excited to like put on your clothes in the morning if you're into clothing? And that can apply to art supplies, project panning or panning different art supplies you have. If there's a few pencils that you have that are like this size, how many different artworks can you create to sort of use those pencils up? Or, you know, how can you try and use different mediums in a creative way? If you have kitchen utensils that, you know, you don't really use very much, maybe you have a baking tray, try and create in the next week 2 recipes that require you to use that kitchen utensil. Like, do you see where I'm getting at? Like, really getting use and value out of everything you already have, really taking care of loving and appreciating all that already exist in your life, and focusing your attention here and not on all the new fancy things to accumulate, I think is such a valuable way to change the game, to change the perspective, and to, yeah, I don't know, how many times can I say get value out of all the things you've already purchased and spent your hard-earned money on. And another area is, if you can't do that with certain things for whatever reason, it just doesn't work for you, declutter it, give it to a home where it can be used. And I think also just that process of minimizing things down, really honing in on what are the things that you really love, what is like your personal style, what do you actually get value out of, is another really useful thing to do along the way. So to go with those items is to create and do, which is kind of what's already happening. When you're basking in your own abundance, you will start creating new things, new outfits, new makeup looks, whatever it is, and you'll start doing and using what you already have more. And I think even taking that further and finding a way to really engage your will. I feel like so much of what we do these days is sit back and just consume content. We're either fixated on consuming and bringing in physical items into our lives, or we just sit there and consume content, whether it's TV shows, movies, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is. We're constantly just taking in other people's thoughts and ideas and, you know, creative hobby things that they do, and all those cool TikTok videos of people drawing and stuff like that. And that's okay, but you know, life is there for you to do and you to create, not just to consume other people's stuff. And it doesn't take anything of who you are as a person to sit there and watch a screen, but to really like draw a picture for yourself, or go out and take photos, or go for a walk, or do a watercolor picture, or like, you know, do some yoga, whatever the thing is that you're interested in and have always wanted to do a bit more of. Like, this is where your time and energy should be going, especially when you're embarking on a no buy or low buy. You need to find a way to actually really fulfill yourself and fill your life when you're not on the chase for these things that advertise that they'll fulfill your life, but we all know that they actually won't. What's really gonna give value to your life, build yourself as a person, build up your confidence and your self-esteem, build up your capacity to self-dialogue and improve. Like, even if you're just doing a drawing once a week or twice a week, and you're just doing like little doodles as you watch YouTube or you're watching movies, and you're practicing shading colors together and all these things, this is building little skills. They might not be like these top valued skills with society, like investment banking or whatever it is that society values, but they actually build your confidence and your ability to do things and know your own value. And like, doesn't mean you have to share your hobby with anyone, but just getting involved in doing things, I think, is the most valuable, important thing that we can do with our time. And you know, I have a bunch of hobbies. I think there's probably so many more out there that I don't even know exist, but I think there's something about seeing a person really engaged in something that they're passionate about that is so inspiring. And I think, you know, going down that route, finding different inspiration, being your own inspiration, and starting to really create things is such a valuable skill to have. I feel like so many people say to me like, oh, I don't have any hobbies, and I go, well, I get it. Like, if you're just looking at everyone else do hobbies, like, why would you bother trying to create your own and get inspired to do your own things? Because yeah, your mind is just full of TikToks and memes and all this other stuff that you've found online, and your thoughts are all about stuff that has been done by other people. But I think when you really start trying to do and create things for yourself, it's just such a different headspace to be on. And you also start this dialogue with yourself about like improving things or learning things, looking at things differently, having a different perspective, having self-reflection. And I just think it's like such a valuable tool. Another couple of random practical things that I'm just going to list off because this video will have me ranting on for a long time is I have a wish list. I think this is really useful. I have one in my bullet journal. Let's see if I can find it quickly. So I have my no buy, low buy spread where I have my rules and stuff, and then I have a wish list. So if there is something I want or I desire, I put it on the wish list, and more often than not, once it sits there for a while, I go back and go, why did I desire that thing? Because the thing about desires is they're not constant. They're kind of fleeting. They come, they get a lot of like push and fire, and then they slowly fade out. And so I think a wish list is great, always adding the things that you maybe do see, because we can't avoid all things forever, and putting that on the wish list. I think also taking photos if you see things online or you see things in the store that you want, like have that as part of the wish list. Like take a photo. I feel like that's an actionable thing to do, where you feel like you're satisfying something but you're not actually purchasing it. And I think those are some extra random things, but I hope this was helpful in some way. These are some of the things that I do. Let me know if you want to hear more about mindsets, but yeah, I don't know. These are the things that I could think about. Share some more if you have some in the comments below about some of the practical things that you do. And yeah, I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!